Next up is Susan Langer with Live, Give, and Save. Come on up, Susan.
Thank you.
We're ready when you are.
All right, great. So, newsflash, for decades, savings rates have been on the decline. It's currently at 3.4%. So what if I told you that you could save $200,000 in 30 years without changing the way that you live? What if nonprofits could double, triple, and quadruple their monthly giving, recurring monthly giving revenues for half the cost? What if banks actually provided tools and products for their customers that allowed them to engage with their personal finances on their terms, giving them actually a fun and rewarding experience? Introducing Spave, the only mobile app that empowers you to save for yourself and for others each time you spend. So our patented three-way transaction process that focuses distinctly on giving and inspiring social good while allowing access to more than 1.5 million accredited nonprofits sets us apart from others in this space. So apps like Mint, Acorns, and Stash, their success is our success because they're proving that their adoption and their fundraising is proving that there's interest and appetite in this space. We're currently in a controlled beta with 100 testers that are actively spaving 5% on $1,800 a month. They're allocating 3% to their savings and 2% to their giving, which is exactly what we projected. We're also generating revenue. Our business model comprises of 10 revenue streams. We're starting with 6.5% fee that is applied to each giving transaction. We'll feather in the 9 remaining revenue streams as we listen actively and learn from our users and our strategic partners through a continuous feedback loop. Our go-to-market strategy is both B2C and B2B. All right, thank you. I had it down to 2 minutes. Yeah, and I fumbled. I don't think it is.
Okay, now it is.
I want to introduce my my co-founder and CTO,
Sure.
Ajay Nair, to come up with me too.
Okay.
He knows all the technology.
Good. So who were you thinking about when you were preparing this presentation? Who do you imagine the audience would be?
Investors.
Well, I would say it sounded more like you were giving a presentation to potential customers. Maybe an ad
Which you all are.
on TV.
Yeah.
No, not really though, because I think, especially with 2 minutes, you really have to pick carefully what you say. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, but I have the feeling that you were probably saying some things that maybe a customer will be more interested in than an investor. I mean, think about the fact that an investor they don't really care about what you do. They really, at the end, they really don't. I mean, it sounds harsh, but to me, this is a box. And I'm going to put money into the box, and I need more money to come out of the box. Mm-hmm. What I care about is how am I going to make money with this company? You know, we look at 1,000 companies a year, and in the end, we invest in only a few. So you got to put your mind in sort of think about that. Think about the fact that if you're pitching to investors, even though that they're going to be asking you questions about who you are and your product, they really are thinking, how am I going to make money? Because that's their job.
Sure.
So I think that's something that hopefully can help you think about how to organize, schedule the presentation, and really narrow down what you say. Because I really came away not knowing really what you did. I mean, I know what you do, what the space is, but I don't understand how you are different from many of the other companies that are doing something similar. So if I could just ask you to elaborate on the uniqueness of what you're doing.
Our uniqueness is that we actually are incorporating giving and inspiring social good within our app. No other app is that's in this space of rounding up. So Acorns and many of the others round up their amounts, their micro amounts, and put them into a mutual fund or a savings account. Nobody is looking at your full financial picture and incorporating giving into it. And so that makes us different. We're also, our patented three-way process allows you to choose how you use your savings. So every time you spend, you're igniting some micro amount, and you decide what percent. That's very different from the other apps. And also access to 1.5 million accredited nonprofits. Nobody else is providing that, and we're also incorporating a social engagement part of that. So that makes us different. Would you say anything else?
From a technology background, so I have a couple of feedbacks. So one of the things the feedback which we got was that even though you're pitching to an investor, the first thing you need to make them understand is what is the problem you're solving. And the only way to explain that is to explain it from a user's perspective or a customer's perspective. Whom are we targeting? So that was the first line of feedback we got. To answer your second question about what is the uniqueness, so it's financial wellness app, but it's not just for yourself. It's for the society as well. There is no app out there which allows you to think in this unique three different ways. I mean, Trident, where you understand what your expenses are, you save for yourself. It could be a debt, it could be anything you want to buy, a purchase of home or something like that, and you save for, or you care for the society or for a charity of your wish.
You know, when you started out, you kind of had me in the first line that, hey, the average savings rate is 3.4%, and that's a problem. You lost me a little bit when you jumped into charity giving. I'm like, okay, how are those connected? Because one is saving for me, one is saving for somebody else, right? And that's powerful, right? It's important to give back to society. So maybe tightening that up a little bit in the beginning. I also heard that, you know, the national savings rate is 3.4%, but then you said on average your people are giving 3% to savings. So they're giving less than the national average, or did I misunderstand something?
While they're using our app, they demonstrated that they were going to allocate, this is a test, right, a controlled test among 100 people. They put, that's on 5% they're spaving, okay? So they're taxing or tipping themselves 5%. 3 is going to saving and 2% is going to giving. Is there a disconnect?
And the 6% fee.
And
You said you're making a 6%.
6.5% fee on all giving transactions.
Got it. So that doesn't come out of the customer. I guess that comes out of what you're giving to the charity. So the customer's not incurring any extra cost?
The customer is not incurring that at all. In fact, the customer gets 100% tax write-off. It goes into a DAF. And so the fee is for us to enable that transaction. The nonprofit actually ends up with 90%. So if you think 10%, 10 cents on every dollar, that's minuscule compared to what they pay currently. It can be 50 cents. I don't have to.
How many people in the audience know that charities actually pay more than 10% to raise money? When somebody calls you and say, give me $100, they're probably keeping 50 and only giving 50 to the charity, right? So
Yes.
I don't know how many people know that, so maybe 2 minutes you can't lay that out, but as you go deeper.
So much.
So the other thing that I think is a fairly generic theme, and maybe I've heard it now, and at least two, maybe all three of you presenting, is I think it's very difficult to think of a startup as a small version of a big company. It's not. And that means you can't think of the market, even though you have aspirations to serve the whole world one day. Even Facebook didn't start serving my grandmother, and now she's a customer. So I think it's important to think about your beachhead and your initial target market. I had an app that I was using for my kids, where they were saving a third of what they got in allowance, and they were giving some to charity, and they were giving some for spending money. Mm-hmm. So there are apps like that are similar. But for me, it was very easy to think about them because I knew this app was for kids like mine. So I would encourage you to think about your segment, your customer segment, and maybe include that, at least when you describe it to an investor, to think, who are you going to go after? Because to go in a very broad and generic way, it's like trying to be Apple and launching a product for the whole world, knowing that that's going to be a very, very expensive way to market to customers, so just get to customers. It's just impractical. So I think that's something that will be useful to incorporate, even especially one where you may be confused, even if you're not directly competing with that app for my kids, an investor might lump you together. So you need to separate yourself from from others in that sense, and think about your customers that way.
Can I respond to that? So in looking at our market, my background is in marketing and direct marketing, so understanding segmentations is very important to me. And data is very important to us. When we look at the market segment, there are 232 million smartphone owners that have spent $50 billion using their device. It's more about attitude and behaviors than it is in the demographics. So that's who we're talking to, and we're also talking to those that have a predisposition to give. And so that's why we were looking at banks and nonprofits to drive our stuff through. But the other thing is there are three demographic markets. Millennials, boomer women like myself, and Hispanics. What we saw in our research is that there is a trajectory in all three of them going up in spending. They're also not saving. None of them are saving. And they're very social, and they're giving. And they share information with one another actively, and they trust one another implicitly. So millennials will use their phone and social media to share information with their friends and their peers. People like myself, boomer women, we like wine. We like to hang out and have book clubs and Bible studies, etc. And then Hispanics are naturally, they share information. So we're very, very intentional in our marketing and our targeting and our messaging with each one of those audiences. So I hear what you're saying about the investors.
Yeah, I think investors like to hear you talk about who you're going to target and who your customers are. Because in there, when you describe that, you're just shying when you start describing your customers, because that's what you understand. You know that well. And you want to do that. You don't want to just give what sounds maybe like an infomercial about a generic product. You want to sound very specific. And then you also not only do you talk about your customers, it helps me understand what product you're serving, what problem you're solving, but also gives you credibility as somebody who understands what you're doing. So I would encourage you to throw, even though I know 2 minutes is very quick, to pretty much always throw who your customer is.
Olivia.
Because I think especially in a place where maybe you have competition or where the space is noisy, it enables you to separate yourself from the competition a little bit.
Do you want to add anything?
No, I'm good.
Thank you. So I started to say, and then I ran out of time, was that we'll be on the App Store at the end of June, and we'll be with iOS only. And we'll be doing a very intensive PR and targeted social media campaign that goes with that. And then we'll be targeting like-minded organizations like banks, nonprofits, and employers who are actively seeking mobile solutions to better engage their constituents. So we all want society to do good, as Ajay was saying. I mean, this is not just here we've got a product and it's a good thing, it's a nice thing. No, actually we want to transform society, but it's going to come from the users themselves that do it with each other. So we're creating an environment, ecosystem for them to engage with their finances better and not to be so fearful and feel complex and overwhelmed with them. It'll be fun and rewarding.
A combination of direct sales or fees and buying social media for users?
So it's PR for users when we're pushing it out there, but it's going to be using our network of like-minded organizations, of banks. We'll white label it for banks. For nonprofits, this is a no-brainer. They love this. We're working with the YMCA right now. They're like, when can we push this out to our donors and to our trustees? They see that it's a reduced amount, but it's actually answering something that they've been looking for.
So when you say it would be white labeled, it would be the YMCA would distribute a version of the app that would only give to the YMCA.
Well, we could do that. The YMCA will take SPAVE, actually, so they don't have to pay anything. If they white label it, then they've got to start paying something. So the nonprofits don't want to pay anything. They can use it for free, but we can have them sponsor. There's a whole package of sponsorship if they want their logo within our app, so that everyone that's using it can see it. That's one way of doing it, and then giving us content, personalized content that reinforces that behavior. Look what you did. You sent another kid to camp. So those are the direct links with some of the nonprofits. Ajay?
Yeah, just wanted to add that this is something which is like a proven model out there. What TD Bank did with Moven, what BOA did with UBack. I don't know what the state is right now, or what JP Morgan did with Cabbage. These are proven models of how we can build value to the existing banking customers or to existing employers who would like to take seriously corporate social responsibility of giving.
Actually, there's a report out by Achieve. If you look up Achieve, they focus on millennials and their behaviors and whatnot. They actually found that 70-some% gave like $400. So it's not like they don't give, they do give. There's different segments, right? There are different aspects of them. But from the millennial standpoint, we've done exhaustive research. We've done focus groups. We worked with the University of Minnesota and their Design U group. We were selected out of I don't know how many people to participate in this program, and they helped us with their research. So we've validated it through primary, secondary, and tertiary research.
And just to add to that, we have so what we went with this is with the MVP, the features which you see here, but we have a strong roadmap. We are planning to incorporate volunteer match, volunteer hours. We're also planning to incorporate employee contribution or employee match for each dollar you pay.
Well, you can put a cap in the whole app, so you can cap your transaction, by week, by day.
Per day.
Yeah, and also what's important.
Yeah, so we have capped right now per day, per transaction, per week, per month. We don't have per year. Thank you very much.
All right, guys. Thank you, Live, Give, Save.